All right, having fun on a Saturday morning. This is Eddie Huff with my sidekick and co-host and nemesis, David Van.
Yeah.
And you know what, Dave? It might help if
there we go. Welcome.
Welcome to Fresh Black Coffee. I should have had my coffee. I didn't have any coffee at the breakfast this morning. Yeah, I didn't have it. I get migraines, so it's not when I have it, it's when I don't. It's the withdrawal from caffeine. I can't. Two of my favorite things: coffee and chocolate. Yeah. And they're like kryptonite to me. But I, who can resist, right? So exactly. And then my wife helps out. She comes home. Oh, hey, I got you a new half-gallon of Rocky Road.
Is it because the abundance of revelation that was giving you a thorn in the flesh? Is that what this is?
That may be. That may be. I have enough thorns, though. I think I can probably do with a few more. So.
Guilty.
Anyway, Dave, why don't you introduce our guest today?
Today's theme is finding new state leaders, and we've got a double stack. And starting with former Senator Jake Merrick from Oklahoma City, kind of actually straddling over to Canadian County. I remember you.
Right. I'm in Grady right now, but I was in Canadian County.
Right?
Yeah, when I served, I was in Canadian County. We recently, in the last couple of years, moved down to Grady County. So Tuttle, Oklahoma, that's where we're at.
All right.
Yep.
So anyway, and then later in the show, we'll have Justin Hornbeck, who's running also statewide campaign for Corporation Commission. So buckle in, folks. It's going to be a big day.
Justin's already here, sitting in our waiting room, our lavish room that we have over there, drinking some spices and
there you go,
fresh black coffee.
Fresh black coffee. Yeah, we won't name what kind, but anyway, hey, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. It's good to be here.
And so you have. Or about to throw your hat into the ring.
That's right. I've already kind of unofficially announced a couple of months ago. I let it rip that I would be running for governor. And the plan has always been to, from the beginning, to stay on my radio show as long as possible. I've hosted the Jake Merrick Show on 96.9 FM for 2.5 years and have a ton of fun doing it. Had Justin on just the other day as well. And get to do what you guys do, interview guests. And I tell you what, I learn something every time. And it's been a sharpening season for me, learning more about different areas of government, more policy issues. And anyway, been doing that. I love it, but it's reached a point where I believe it's necessary to go ahead and file. I was going to not file and stay on my show as long as possible. Because I love it, but also it's a great platform to be a voice in the state, to address state issues. And I wanted to keep that, but I feel like I need to give my supporters the confidence that I'm fully in. And so I want to go ahead and file, throw my hat fully in, and let them know that, hey, there's no ifs, ands, or buts for me. I'm fully in this fight for Oklahoma and for the people. So I will be filing at the end of the month, June 30th. And that means my deal with the station is that when I become a legally qualified candidate, then I will leave the show, not put them at risk for any lawsuits for equal time for any of the other candidates. So I'll leave the show and then I'll devote my full time to the Jake for the State podcast. And I have another show I'm going to be ramping up and we'll be traveling the state.
Good.
Jake for the state.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
That sounds good.
It has a ring to it.
Yeah. So you have been in the State House.
In the Senate. Yeah.
I'm sorry, State Senate. Yeah. And now, I'm trying to couch this in a situation where, because I just got through listening to you.
Right.
We had breakfast.
Yeah, we had breakfast all us together, this big gathering. But anyway, if you want to summarize, encapsulate what you're really wanting to do differently than what is being done right now. And some of the issues that we face or people, our representatives face there in the State House.
Right. And for those listening, they didn't see your air quotes there, but I agree. The quote unquote representatives, I would like to see a day where our elected representatives in our constitutional representative republic actually represent the people who elected them, and not the corporate interest, not the big lobbying groups, but the people of Oklahoma. And I think that's actually what the people of Oklahoma want. When I talk to people around the state, they feel left out. They feel like, does it even matter? My vote, we have people door knocking. We talk to them at the door. They make big promises. We see their flashy mailers that make all these big promises, but they get into office and then we never see or hear from them again. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, a lot of people, they stop voting altogether. There's a hopelessness that I think has settled in around the state. You look at the voter turnout, and that just tells the story. Mm-hmm. You always have just a fraction of the population showing up to vote. And I think it's easy to see why, because they're saying, what does it matter? They all get in, they all become the same. Uniparty has been the key word that I'm hearing over and over again. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing people say, you know what? We can't talk about Democrat and Republican anymore. It's a uniparty. They get in, and essentially they're all on the same team working together, and it has nothing to do with what the people actually want. And I think it's time to change that. It's going to take someone who's outside the system, and one might say, well, aren't you in the system? Well, I was in the Senate for a term and a half. I went in and filled the remainder of Stephanie Bice's term when she was elected. Got in there long enough to see how things worked and learned, but thankfully not long enough to be changed. And I would say this, everyone is susceptible to corruption. And anyone who comes in with the pride or arrogance to think that they are incorruptible, well, you're most likely to be corrupted. Be careful of him who thinks he stands lest he falls, the Bible says. And so I was asked that question when I was running in my last campaign. They said, how do we know that you won't change? I said, you don't. You don't. Anybody could be corrupted. And so that's why we have to constantly put ourselves before God, be accountable to him first, and then to the people. One of the ways I want to give people confidence that I am all about them is I'm not going to take any lobbyist or special interest money. No PAC money. There's some good PACs out there. I'm not going to take any money from any PAC or special interest group. The reason I'm doing that is because I want people to know that I'm different and I really am in this for them. In the end, if elected, I want to be accountable to God and the people of Oklahoma, no special interest parties.
Let's clarify something on that.
Yeah, please.
Because it's one thing for the campaign to receive donations.
Yeah.
But it's another thing, and something you won't be able to stop. It is third-party campaign expenditures.
Dark money.
Yeah.
Yeah. People spending money to influence the election.
Right.
But by law, they can't have any coordination.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you just need to put that out there right now. Say, well, he lied. He said he wasn't going to take it. And then I got this mailer.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was asked that at Mays County GOP when I spoke there just a few days ago. And the question was, will you let these third-party groups, as dark money groups, will you tell them not to put anything out there for or against you?
That's a violation.
Well, here's what I said. Who are they? Nobody knows who they are. If I knew who was behind the dark money, then maybe I could go and communicate that message to them. But oftentimes they're dark because they're in the shadows and we don't even know who's behind these groups.
Yeah, but if you have a direct message to them, then you are violating ethics by communicating, coordinating.
Yeah, I knew nothing about dark money until I ran for Senate in my first race. And suddenly the night before the election, a text went out to everyone in my district on my behalf.
Yeah. It
was a very positive text, actually helped me out.
Yeah.
And everybody started calling me saying, hey, did you send that text out? I'm like, what are you talking about? And looked at my phone. I got one too, and realized, wow, somebody is out there on my behalf. I later found out who it was. Mm-hmm. And this was after I was elected. They said, hey, just so you know, we sent that text out. Mm-hmm. I was like, why?
Yeah.
Well, we wanted you in and we couldn't coordinate with you. We're one of these 501c4 organizations. And so we couldn't coordinate with you. We had to do this without your knowledge. And so I knew nothing about it. And what's interesting, though, is after I had a very consequential vote and controversial vote in the Senate, that same group sent out another text against me.
Yeah.
So they may be for you one day, but they can very quickly turn on you the next time.
Yeah. And I want to say something else on that. Our friend of the show, Matt Pinnell, when running for lieutenant governor, one of his, rivals in the primary was Dana Murphy. In the middle of her term, in Corporation Commission. And Matt told me, he said, here's the thing. She's getting tons of money from executives for oil companies and all these people that she regulates. And he said, you can't tell me this isn't quid pro quo, because if she's unsuccessful here, stays in Corporation Commission, you can get retribution for not paying up. And it's almost, he didn't use the word extortion, but it looks close to that for me. And I know later in the day, in this show, we're going to have Justin address some of those things, but that's another way that money can corrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the factor, is the money factor. And it's also how a lot of people tend to qualify their candidates. First question you're asked, especially in a statewide race like for governor, is how much money do you have? And I understand the concern. It's like, can you reach the state? Can you get your messaging out? Whether we like your message or not, you have to reach the people with it. And so there has to be a strategy. If you're going to go on a low budget campaign like I am, not depending on the millions like some of the other candidates have, then you have to have a different strategy. We have a different strategy that is in place. We have a lot of support that I believe the money will be there as we need it. But our goal is not to raise up this huge war chest. We're going to have a very specific focus, and we'll raise money as we need it. But it's interesting, though, that the money factor becomes a big qualifier as to whether or not people support you or not. And I would like to take that factor out and say, hey, what's the substance of what you're standing for? Let's base the decision and a vote on that rather than how much money you have. So,
how much money do you have? Just kidding.
Well, somebody bought my breakfast this morning, so I was thankful for that. So
there you go. I just had are they going to report it?
Yeah, exactly. We'll report everything, right?
Yeah, no, but yeah. So you have your platform, things that you want to see done and go for, obviously. Now, a strong part of your candidacy is your faith-based background.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the organization that you have, do you feel that will help the network? I mean, is it statewide, national? Because, you're going to run against a mega campaign from the Attorney General.
Right.
I think they're looking at
Charles McCall.
$100 million.
Yeah. And Mike Mazie has a big war chest as well. A lot of support. Yeah. So not nearly as big. Right.
Yeah. Those two are, over 100 million. That's, in full disclosure, I actually am working for Mike Mazie's campaign. So okay.
I still love you.
Oh yeah. No. And listen, may the best man win. I really mean that.
I have a role. I needle Mike Mazie.
Yeah. We do that. We pick.
I like him personally, but there's some tax issues.
Yes, that's how we met when he was a.
No, you were needling me that time.
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah, but I won. So anyway, Mike can't. In fact, he's president now. That's right. Early on. But anyway, but you're up against Goliath.
Yeah,
150. That's $150 million. Man, that's rough. I mean, that is tough. Now, it doesn't mean it can't be done. Right. David beat Goliath, but so you're going to really have to have some groundwork. Do you have that foundation built? Do you have the workers, the people that are motivated and driven to
everywhere we go across the state and we communicate this message, there's immediate response, a positive response with the average guy wanting to get on board and say, how can I help? Because as soon as I tell people I'm not taking any PAC money, big corporate interest money, these kinds of things, it gives them such a great sigh of relief that finally somebody's in that they believe has the people's best interest in mind. And so just talking with people outside of the political circles, and that's really where we're going to focus, is not just on the GOP groups. We got to get outside there, talk to the masses. And when we talk to people, maybe they're registered voters, maybe not. Maybe they're Republican, maybe they're not. But I just talk to people in general, and it's refreshing for them to hear someone who is not bought out. And I'm not saying any of these guys are bought out, but it's the appearance that they are. When they're receiving this money, they have this massive war chest. There's a question in the minds of the people, like who's really holding the puppet strings? who's really influencing them. And when I make it clear I'm not receiving any of that money, it's a true grassroots effort, then immediately people are saying, how can I help? Okay, I can believe in that. And so we just need to get that message out more. We need to be on the Fresh Black Coffee podcast, more in places like this that are reaching people. Of course, I know probably your audience is more politically minded, but we want to get out there and be on sports podcasts and go out there and reach people that are not, actively in our circles of influence. And I tell you, the response from them consistently has been positive. And so we're going to go out and we want to see a cultural shift. I said this in the meeting earlier, that the kind of government I believe we need is only possible if we see a cultural revolution.
True.
I believe that to the core, because that requires people to take personal responsibility and have self-government. Self-government means we can have maximized freedom. But when you have a culture that is unregulated, then the government wants to step in and regulate it. And necessarily so. I have Sam Adams, another quote from him. I love Sam Adams because he was an agitator. He was one that challenged the status quo of the day. And he said, "It is in the interest of tyrants to reduce the people to ignorance and vice, for they cannot live in any country where virtue and knowledge prevail."
Wow.
So if we want to deal with centralized control and tyranny, we have to encourage virtue and knowledge in the culture. We have to go to the people. I said earlier, I have a family first campaign. I want to restore, protect, and move Oklahoma families forward. I believe that we have a breakdown at the family unit and health. I'm always been in health and fitness. I'm all about physical wellness. And to know if you're truly healthy, you have to draw your blood and look at your cells. It's not in the mirror. It's not on the scales. It's actually the cells. To know if you have cancer, if your hormones are regulated, it tells the story. And I believe that the family unit is the cell of the state. To know if a state is truly healthy, look at the nuclear family. Do we have fathers present? What's our domestic violence rate? It's high. What's our incarceration rate? It's high. And I think those also translate to what's our educational outcomes? It's low. Yeah. Well, I think when you have dysfunction in the family, you're going to have kids in seats in the classrooms who can't focus, who can't concentrate. They have too much going on at home. I think if we focus on the family, restored that, protected that, then we would see better educational outcomes just because you had more focused kids. Yeah. It impacts every aspect of society.
Since you're bringing up founding fathers, and thank you, Sam Adams. You just
love him.
Folksy, straightforward, not a lot of fluffy words.
Great beer.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson, talked about the core functions of limited government: life, liberty, property, for all human life. Yeah. And you and I have been focused on at-risk populations, including the unborn. And a lot has happened there. What's left unfinished that the state can do? Because the state can't do everything. We don't want a tyranny. Yeah. So tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, speaking, I do prioritize state power, state sovereignty. There's big questions, and this could get into a whole nother series of podcasts, but concerning the 14th Amendment and what has that done to state sovereignty, as it seemed to have shifted things to more of a national framework rather than a federal framework with a priority on the individual states and their sovereignty. And so there's big questions there as far as what are the limits of state powers. For me, whenever I stood against abortion, it was twofold. I ran as an abolitionist, didn't even know what the word meant in relation to abortion until I ran for Congress. Yeah. I was introduced to some of the abolitionist groups who explained that to me. And I said, well, I guess I'm an abolitionist. I believe life begins at conception, or even you could say fertilization, which is where life begins. So if we believe life is sacred, we must protect it. Not 6 or 12 or however many weeks you want to justify it. But I believe life begins at conception. If we believe it's sacred, we must protect it as soon as it begins. No matter what form or to what maturity level it progresses, life is sacred at fertilization. That was my position. And I kind of assumed that was the pro-life position until I learned more. And it was more about, well, we can't really do much because of Roe versus Wade. And it was a deference to the federal courts, who I may have to say offer an opinion. They do not make law. So my fight for abolition was twofold: for life, number one; number two, for the authority and the power of the state. For us to say that if they say you can, and you must, not only can, but you must allow the taking of life, of human life, we as a state, where are we going to draw the line? At some point, if it is clear federal overreach and violates our conscience as a state, we have to say, go pound sand, federal government. What would happen? I throw this scenario out there. What would happen if Kamala Harris won? Think about where we would be in contrast to where we are now. Throw out some radical idea that would be impossible today, but may have been possible with somebody like Kamala Harris like we're trying to clean up our school libraries and remove sexually explicit material from our school libraries.
In the hands of children.
In the hands of children. And so what is the response from a lot of the left? They say, well, it's in the Bible. Let's get the Bible out. So I throw out this scenario. What if you take that to its end and you have somebody like Kamala Harris and they say, you know what, you're right. The Bible is a hate speech book. It's going to divide, not unite. We're going to remove the Bibles. And let's take that to the next level. You know what? We need to remove the Bible. So let's say Bibles are illegal in the United States. Take it to the most extreme, right? So what do we say as a state? Do we say, well, guys, gather up your Bibles? I mean, Supreme Court said, law said, we got to burn our Bible. No, at some point you draw a line and you say, no, in Oklahoma, we're not going to do that. We're going to preserve that right and that freedom. And I had that view with abortion as well.
Okay.
And I want to say that I took a strong stand for state rights and states' powers and also for life as an abolitionist, which meant I voted against some pro-life bills, that I wasn't going to just check the box because it had the label pro-life. I was saying, does this actually value and protect human life? And if it didn't, I would vote against it, which looks bad on a mailer. You know, it shows that you voted with the Democrats. And then they want to say that I'm not pro-life. Actually, I'm super pro-life. You just need to get to the heart of what that vote was about. But we have a largely ignorant population base that want to just vote on what they see in a mailer. So that message won, and that was a big part of my reelection, my loss in my reelection, is they want to say I was not a pro-life candidate. Regardless, it's about principle. And I'm not going to make a vote or a decision based on how it's going to appear. I'm going to base it based on what is righteous. And I believe that was righteous, that vote. And I would do it again today, even if it meant I wasn't reelected.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question even further, I believe that we have to go to that end and say, what do we say about life? When does it begin? And we have to protect it when it starts.
And that is a core function of government, to protect life, liberty, property.
100%.
As Jefferson
100%.
said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last thing, I know we're wrapping up, you got to hit the road. Tax policy. We've seen a lot going on here recently. Some candidates want to shift more to adding as a tax base services, like your doctor bill, your plumber bill. If you have to hire an attorney, you're going to have to pay sales tax on that. Where are you on that, if we can simplify?
Well, I believe that just at its core, taxation is theft. You start with that, and it kind of makes things clear.
Okay.
It's the forceful taking of the fruits of your labor. No one is voluntarily paying taxes right now. I think there is a model where we could do that with the fair tax model.
Which is consumption tax.
It's a consumption tax. I like that as an ideal model. I don't think it's perfect, but it is voluntary, where you do away with the income, corporate, and property taxes, move everything to the register. So that increases the tax at the register, but that's the only tax you pay. And it's voluntary because you get to decide if you want to buy things. It wouldn't apply to groceries or essential items, but the rich would pay more taxes because they buy more things. The poor would pay less taxes because they buy fewer things. And I think it's a fair way. So I would like to do that in an ideal world. If I had a magic wand, I'd go there. But with that in mind, my view of taxes, I'm opposed to these unnecessary taxes. They're only justified as necessary because we continue to grow government. And now we have to figure out a way to fund that growing government. If we'd stop growing government, we wouldn't have to have these extra taxes to pay for it. Get down to its essential function of protecting life, liberty, and property. And I think we can do away with most taxes here in the state. I was glad to see the state portion of the grocery tax eliminated, but I really want to focus on property taxes. I would like to see property tax eliminated in the state of Oklahoma.
Right. And then corporate welfare, I've heard you speak about that. You don't want to hand millions of dollars in tax credits to electric car companies or battery companies like Governor Stitt has been doing.
100%. Tax credits in general are problematic if you're wanting to reduce the size of government, but especially to corporations. And I would like to prioritize local Oklahoma small businesses, help them out. In this effort to bring in these major corporations, the small businesses are out there saying, what about us?
Yeah.
Do we matter?
Yeah.
And I would like to make sure we help them get the work they needed. I love VOTech and career tech schools to help get these essential skills where they could go immediately to work with some of these local businesses. There's a lot we can do to support these local businesses rather than the corporate welfare like you're talking about.
Good. How do people get a hold of you?
Right now, jakeforthestate@gmail.com. That's the best way, jakeforthestate@gmail.com. I will be, once I file June 30th, I'll launch our official campaign website. It'll be jakemerrickforgovernor.com, and I'll have an email associated with that. But right now, until we file, you can get me at jakeforthestate@gmail.com.
Okay. I think you're on Twitter or X.
I am on X, under my name, Jake Merrick, and Facebook, of course. I'm tapping my toe into TikTok, and we'll see. We'll try to use all social media platforms.
And they can pick up your radio show for the rest of this month.
I got one more week on 96.9 FM. After I file, we don't want to put the station at risk with a pursuit of equal time on the radio. So I will be stepping away from the radio station, and then I'll be going full time on the Jake for the State podcast.
Yeah, I'm expecting a podcast. You can't stop.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Love it too much.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have candidate for State Corporation Commissioner Justin Hornbeck, and we're going to send Jake to the road. Get back to your family.
Thank you for your time, guys.
All right. Thank you.